Good morning to everyone and welcome to the Masterclass, the Slow Food Coffee Coalition from Cup to Bean. There's our backward journey of your daily cup of coffee. It's not a coincidence we are broadcasting today. In fact, the 1st of October is the International Coffee Day. My name is Emanuele Dughera from Slow Food International, and I will be your moderator in this dialogue, let's say. Today, we have a goal to put the spotlight on the coffee value chain, to create awareness around the coffee, and to learn more about the various works and people that are behind your daily cup of coffee, and a little bit about the future of coffee, maybe. Because knowing more led us to make better choices, no? And we are going to do this this dialogue with amazing speakers today. We're going to have José Sette, Executive Director of the International Coffee Organization, Rebecca, Barista from Edinburgh, Francesco, Roaster in Copenhagen, Veronica from Lavazza, and Michela, the voice of the producers in Honduras. Also have Jorid Kivik from Slow Food Youth Network. I hope I pronounce it well. Lucia Rivera Lima from World Food Forum Innovation Team, and also part of the board of experts of the Slow Food Coffee Coalition. And of course, all of you, because after a round of dialogue, we are going to have question and answer part, Q&A. So please write down in the chat room the question you would like to ask to the speaker. We would love to have you read the question direct to them. So if you like, if you feel like, we will ask you to turn on the camera. Otherwise, I will read the question for you. So now I'm really happy to give the floor to Lucia.
Thank you, Emanuele, for the introduction. And first of all, I want to say hello and welcome everyone. I'm really happy to see so many of you here, because today is a very special day, because it's not only the first official day of the flagship event of the World Food Forum, it is also International Coffee Day. So to start this masterclass, I hope all of you have your cup of coffee with you. At least I do. So let me tell you a bit about the World Food Forum. It is a global platform and a network led by youth, for youth, and also young at heart folks, of course. And it's a space where young people can share ideas and knowledge and inspire one another to make a difference, to transform our food systems. And while the World Food Forum flagship event is happening now this week, you can stay alert because there will be dialogues and other events taking place throughout the year. These include innovation labs, educational activities, culinary arts, film festivals, and music. So a little bit of everything. And the purpose is to drive awareness, foster engagement and advocacy, and also mobilize resources, all in support of agri-food system transformation through youth-led action. Now, the World Food Forum masterclasses touch all areas of our agri-food systems, and these consist on inspirational and educational content from emerging young leaders and from renowned experts. In the masterclasses, we come to listen to the stories and actionable solutions that these leaders have to share. Each episode covers one theme on how to transform our food systems, and today we focus on coffee. So I know we all agree coffee is a delicious beverage and ingredient, but it's also the second most traded commodity in the world. That means that coffee is a key agricultural crop that impacts producers in the global south, in countries like mine, Guatemala, and also it impacts traders, roasters, baristas, and consumers all over the world. So there are two sides of the same coin. Today, coffee faces sustainability obstacles due to climate change, and it also faces social challenges due to unfair trade and defiant human and labor rights. But at the same time, the world of coffee, just like tea and wine, is infinitely fascinating. From the tiny coffee grain to the last drop of a cappuccino, one single cup of coffee can tell you so many stories. And today, in 2021, so many young people all over the world are innovating and shaping the coffee scene towards sustainability, more direct trade, new roasting methods, new brewing methods, new recipes, and so much more. So this masterclass aims at presenting the coffee value chain, not only to raise awareness on the challenges, but mostly to showcase good practices and inspire coffee lovers, and also to convert those who are not yet coffee lovers. So I am so happy to have you here with us today to learn about the coffee value chain, and I really look forward to advocating for good, clean, and fair coffee together. Over to you, Emanuele.
Thanks, Lucia. Very interesting. Thanks. So, well, to break the ice, let's start with a little game. So we are going to ask you a question, which is, where are you from? And you can see in the chat, and you can see also here in the screen, it will be arriving, a link to menti.com. So please go to the link and put the code given, provided, and you will be directly on the page. This is the best way to do it if you're using the computer. If you're using a mobile phone, please scan the QR code. I leave you some moment to do so. It's because that question helped to start many conversations around the world. Where are you come from? Where you come from? And so I'll ask Lucia to share her screen when some questions with some answer will arrive. Meanwhile, I can tell you that I'm from Italy, from Turin. Here it's a very not very sunny day, but anyway, still good. And I see there are many that are arriving. Portugal, benvindo. The Netherlands, a lot of Italian. Finland, Montpellier, France, very specific, good. Egypt, Brazil, United States. Oh, Mauritius, there's a wonderful slow food chapters in Mauritius. The Netherlands, or say it, Portugal, China, Austria, India, mostly Italy, let's say, today, huh? Bangladesh, Ghana, Vienna, very specific, Ethiopia, it's super interesting on coffee. Cyprus, I know friends from Cyprus. Finally, let's say Mongolia, very, very good. Italy has been bigger. Okay, so cool. Thanks for this breaking this breaking ice. Let's enter a little bit on today's dialogue. Normally we start, I mean, a good question would have been, what is coffee? It would be surprising because yes, it's a beverage, but we think that the real answer is coffee is a plant. And this plant is growing in a specific area of the world. To make it simple, it's on the belt between the two tropics. It then brings us to the first problem, climate crisis. So several studies tell us that if the climate crisis is not slowing down, by 2050, the amount of land on which the coffee grows will be halved compared to today. So that means that coffee is at risk, a serious risk. It means that from here to 30 years, we might no longer have the luxury to drinking all the coffee we used to do right now, considering also that the global demand is increasing. And then there's another problem to be challenged. Another challenge, there's a huge gap between the world of production and the world of consumption. So there's a great lack of knowledge about the coffee product, where it comes from, who grown that, okay? So to tackle all these challenges, Slow Food and Lavazza started in April this year. This network is called Slow Food Coffee Coalition, okay? What is about? It's a network, an open network that want to unite all the participants, and is doing that, all the participants and players involved in the coffee supply chain, from farmers to consumer, traders, roasters, barista, chefs, cooks, and all the players think and act in a collaborative way. This is the big word, collaborative. In a collaborative way towards a common goal. Our goal is to have a good, clean, and fair coffee for all, we hope. So the aim, we want to create connection, improve the relationship between producers, consumers, and if you think about it, is what we are doing today. No, we are sit at the same table with producers, farmers, barista, and because what we want to do is raise the debate on the topic of coffee, and this is done under the banner of our manifesto. What is the manifesto? Is position statement written by many hands, experts and farmers from all around the world, that created this manifesto of the Slow Food Coffee Coalition. And it's our vision, it's our world of coffee that we would love to have, is the health where we stand for. Because we think that the most important thing right now is that each actor in the coffee chain, from farmer to roaster to consumer, they have a role and they have responsibility to perform better, to make it better, this long value chain, okay? So step by step, doing a small thing maybe, but together we can really make a difference. We can really make a change. But to let explain better than me the manifesto idea, today we have a wonderful video. Then I ask to play the video. It's just 1 minute, and see what is about our manifesto. If you can play it, thanks.
Here at the Slow Food Coffee Coalition, together for good, clean and fair coffee is more than just our motto. And coffee is more than just a beverage to wake you up in the morning. We work to gain transparency across the whole supply chain, to trace each bean from the hands of the farmer all the way to the steaming mug on your countertop. By preserving our environment and focusing on biodiversity, you get to experience the real essence of coffee, the aromas, tastes and scents, but also the collaborative effort of everyone involved. So, why not come together to flip the script on how we talk about coffee? Let's create a conversation that everyone can be a part of. Let's educate all those who want to look beyond their coffee cup and learn about food security and good human and labour rights. Now that's what Together for Good, Clean and Fair Coffee means to us. What about you? Join us now.
Great, thanks Lucia. Thanks for have displayed this video. So as you can see, we have some points. They are very important for us. We might discuss it today, like preserving the biodiversity and the traceability of coffee. And so joining this manifesto with me means for us a way to talk about coffee, to raise the debate on coffee. And as we are talking about coffee, I wanted to, if we have time, let me know if we have. I would love to launch the second Mentimeter. So it's the same link you've been previously, but we have another question, which is, where does your coffee come from? So the coffee that you were drinking today, and where it came from, you know that? Colombia, Peru, very good. Indonesia, Ethiopia, Brazil. What else? What else we have here? The Philippines. Very good. Germany, someone? Nicaragua, Yemen, oh, very rare, very good. Nepal, Cameroon is someone is writing in the chat. Papua New Guinea. I would love to go in Papua New Guinea and discover some new. Malawi. I've been there and I know a lot of farmers in Malawi. So good, thanks for having for this Mentimeter. Is always very good and engaging. So now I'm very happy to pass the floor to José Sette.
Thank you, Emanuele. And I am absolutely delighted to celebrate International Coffee Day 2021 with all of you today. The organization I have the honor to lead, which is the International Coffee Organization, the ICO, has members that are both governments of countries that produce and export coffee, as well as those that import the product. And our members decided in 2015 that every year on October 1st, the entire world of coffee stakeholders and lovers should join together to promote and celebrate coffee as the world's most beloved beverage, and also as an incredible job and income opportunity for millions of people around the world, from farmers to baristas. The International Coffee Day is also an opportunity to promote sustainable and inclusive coffee production and consumption, to fight against illegal labor practices or those harming the environment, as well as to raise awareness for the plight of coffee growers and their rights to a prosperous income and life. By a happy coincidence, today is also the first day of the FAO's World Food Forum. Even more importantly, both of the events this year share the same vision and aspirations, a focus on youth, the future of humanity, and how to enhance awareness, promote engagement, and mobilize young people in transforming value chains. We have also met the Youth 20 delegations who took part in the recent G20 meeting to request their action to support young women and men to show the innovative vision and job opportunities offered by the coffee sector. This year, as I said, the ICO celebration of the next coffee generation will concentrate on opportunities to promote coffee consumption as a sensory and healthy experience, while addressing key issues related to the coffee ecosystem and landscapes, as well as supporting the most vulnerable groups within the coffee value chain. Our celebration of youth in coffee will be complemented by the next edition of the ICO's Coffee Development Report, which is our annual flagship publication and which will become available early next year. This publication is an in-depth study of the significant challenges faced by the world coffee sector and contains key recommendations for action for policymakers in order to support the next coffee generation. I would like to thank our partners, the Slow Food Coffee Coalition, who have brought together a diverse mix of young people involved in coffee to tell you about their experiences. Rebecca, Francesco, Veronica, and Michela will show you various parts of the coffee value chain, from growing to roasting to working as a barista. I hope that they will inspire you and give you ideas for the future. In my case, coffee was my first job opportunity after graduating from university. And that modest beginning eventually brought me to the leadership of the ICO. Until today, I still feel young and passionate about coffee, despite my white hairs. Although the coffee sector is a fascinating place to work, as I can personally testify from decades of experience, I think it's safe to say that most of you will never work directly with coffee. However, you are also very important because young people play a key role in the global value chain as consumers. In this sense, you have a great responsibility to make the world that you are inheriting more sustainable. Despite being more advanced in terms of sustainability than many other crops, coffee still has a long way to go in order to achieve full sustainability. Here, young people play a crucial role every time they choose to drink a delicious cup of coffee. Opinion polls all over the world consistently show that the next generation is more concerned with sustainability issues than previous generations. Make informed choices about your consumption habits. You, the next generation, must learn from the errors of your predecessors, my generation, and build upon your power and idealism and use it for the common good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, José. Really, thanks for the inspiring words. So, guys, we have to inspire the youth today. Let's try so. So, as we have called this a backward journey, so starting from the cup of coffee that many of us are drinking every day, I would love to start talking with Rebecca. Ciao, Rebecca. So you're a barista, coffee expert, coffee lovers. So can you tell us more about you and your being the coffee lover?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to say that it's an honor to be here today as one of the speakers for this masterclass. I'm very excited about this conversation. It's extremely important for me, but also about the rest of the program for this week's World Food Forum. Really looking forward for it. For a little introduction about myself, I'm Rebecca. I'm 23 years old, and I'm originally from Italy. But about 5 years ago, I moved to the UK to pursue my undergraduate degree. I lived in London and then moved up to Scotland, where I'm currently to do my master's in environment and development at the University of Edinburgh. So yeah, that's where I'm tuning in from today, from rainy Edinburgh. During my studies, I was always working part-time in different roles across the hospitality industry, but it wasn't until last year that I started developing this keen interest for the world of coffee. And so a few months ago, I decided to apply to become a barista for this specialty coffee shop and roastery called Williams & Johnson, which is, it has a great reputation here in the city. And I got the job, and I've just been loving it since. And I'm now working full-time now that I've graduated. And it really is like the coffee sector is really an environment that draws you in, as José was saying, because there is a niche for everybody. You can sort of find your place in it. And I think coffee is such an extremely interesting product for several reasons. That goes from taste to its convivial factor, how it brings people together, but also particularly from what I'm interested in, its political and economic implications that really I found quite fascinating. So I really, really wanted to work with it for this reason. But as we already said, coffee can also be a very problematic product, and there just isn't enough talking about it, and consumers are not aware of what's behind their daily cup of coffee. So I think that baristas have a great potential to be agents of change, since as a barista, you have the great privilege to have a direct contact with the consumer, which is something that farmers don't have. So with this privilege comes also the great responsibility to sort of be the voice of everyone before you. And definitely most baristas, like me included, but we don't know enough and we don't share enough with the consumer. And it's something that, in my opinion, has to change, because by creating this human relationship, we really are equipped with making a change, because it's so much easier for the consumer to learn something from another human, a friend, rather than have they all lead busy lives. They're not going to go and read academic reports and official articles to get more informed. So yeah, I definitely think that there's so much potential in that. I can also acknowledge that there are limitations, because obviously I work in a specialty coffee shop. It's a small cafe. I have the people that come in there are already not the biggest proportion of who consumes coffee. It's already a small niche, and have more the opportunity to engage with a customer. Whereas if I serve 1,000 espressos a day in a busy Italian cafe, it's just a different environment. And also, last thing I wanted to mention was that what I think is really, really important is trying to educate whilst fighting the pretentiousness that sometimes goes around the coffee sector, because I don't think there's anything worse with someone that's just really talking to you in a kind of an entitled way and saying oh, you can't add sugar to your cup of coffee. You don't understand anything if you add sugar. It's that's not helpful. Tell me why I shouldn't add sugar, and be more open-minded and understanding of the fact that there's different people from different backgrounds. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I think you're right. I mean, everyone has the responsibility here in that value chain, as we said. Yours, as let's say barista, is very important, because you have to pass what you have to the consumer, and it's more easier to pass it to consumer that already knows something, or they a lot. But we have to find a way to pass also to the ones that are not knowing that much about coffee. So that's a tricky part we can discover together. And while we are trying to do so, I remember that all of you can write the questions to the chat room. Please feel free to do it. So thanks, Rebecca. We will come back to you very soon. Now we are going to a little bit back to Francesco. Francesco is our roaster. So it's the one that gets the green beans, and then it has to transform it into something that have to give to the consumer. So Francesco, what is the work of our little roaster?
Well, it's an honor to be here. My name is Francesco, and thank you to the organizer of this initiative. And I'm really delighted to be here and to share my experience, and I really got to hear more from the audience and from colleagues and other coffee professionals. To answer your question, Emanuele, let me start with a quote taken from James Hoffman World Atlas of Coffee, that that is in Italy, has been translated and published by Slow Food. And the quote is coffee, in quote, has never been better than it's today. And I like this quote because I know it might sound controversial, but tells a fundamental truth that globally coffee is much better now than 20 years ago. And that happens because of the tremendous innovation that took place at different stage of the supply chain. Now, farmers select and grow better coffee, exporters and importers have worked a lot to improve traceability, and roasters and barista endowed with much better skills and have access to state-of-the-art equipment, right? So what is missing to me, it's to provide the majority of coffee producer and consumer with the tools required to understand, exploit, and enjoy this higher increased quality, right? So that's why we should welcome an initiative like the Slow Food Coffee Coalition, because it really will help, I hope, to make good coffee go mainstream, all right? And go out of the niche. So yeah, to answer your question, Emanuele, I I think as a coffee roaster is like the barista, a specialty coffee barista that Rebecca mentioned. So we are in a privileged position because we sit right in the middle of the supply chain. So we are among the most entitled to bridge the gap between producer and consumer, right? So since many of us are physically like closer to the consumer because we live in the northern world, we need to start to focus first on consumer, okay? And this is basically what we do here at Nordic Roasting, the company I work for in Copenhagen, Denmark. We spend, when we are not busy roasting coffee, we spend a considerable amount of time taking coffee class and delivering barista class or roasting class to coffee professional, but also to simple coffee lover. When I deliver training, I always like to start from by saying that almost like 1/3 of the quality depends on the producer. And 1/3 depends on the roaster, and 1/3 depends on the barista or the person who would ultimately will brew that cup of coffee, right? So I love to use the metaphor of the coffee beans as the notes traveling the stave or the pentagram in order to create a melody that is our good cup of coffee, perfect cup of coffee. We need to have all the components of the orchestra, that the musicians tune in to play the same symphony. And we know that it's tricky because unlike what we see in other food industry that we always put next to the coffee industry, so like wine or craft beers, the geographical distance between producer and consumer it might be huge. So therefore, I would love to be able to take my customer to an origin trip, but it's impossible. So we need to use other tools to try to raise awareness. And it's important to say that as a specialty coffee roaster, raising awareness is not just a moral duty. No, it's not just an ethical imperative to pay respect to and tribute to the hard work of the coffee growers. It's for me, it's a fundamental necessity. It's a material need, because if I buy specialty coffee, if I buy coffee that has already a higher value at the origin, I need to sell at a higher price to make some profit, right? So I need to convince my customer that this coffee is better than inferior coffee. Okay, so we at Nordic Roasting, at the roaster in Copenhagen where I work, we like many other specialty coffee roaster, of course we provide detailed information on the coffee label to try to engage more and more the consumers. And I'm happy to see that this is one of the requirements that is listed on the manifesto of the Slow Food Coffee Coalition. Be transparent, try to convey as much information as possible on the label. Another thing we're doing is we decided to keep several coffee from different origin always on the menu. And this is, of course, increase the transaction cost, increase the amount of energy or effort, money that we need to put in order to source, roast, learn how to roast, market, and sell this coffee. But at the same time, it's so rewarding to see the customer that are like really impressed by the diversity of coffee. We need to remember that coffee has over 850 aromatic and flavor compound. Wine has approximately 200. So coffee is much more complex drinks and beverage, right? Another thing we do organize public cuppings, and I love it. Of course, I'm looking forward to going back to this because, of course, we had to stop because of the pandemic. Another thing we love to do it is we roast behind windows. So our roaster has no walls, has these huge windows, so people passing by in the street, they just look inside and peek, and they are attracted. It's like an open kitchen in a fine dining restaurant. No, it break down the barriers between producer and processor and consumer. Let me finish by saying something regarding the relationship with producer. We, as roaster, we are not really entitled to provide education, as this will go far beyond the scope of our job, right? But we can still build relationship with suppliers, either directly by visiting at the origin or through trustworthy coffee importer, the good middleman. I just want to quote, I like to quote my friend and coffee importer Leonard Klex in Amsterdam from this side up, because we need also to understand that importer has a huge role in try to increase the transparency across the supply chain. I would like to stick to the parallel with the wine industry, because another difference between coffee and wine is that coffee producers historically are not coffee consumer, with a few exceptions, of course, if you think about Ethiopia, you know. And one thing that strikes me whenever I travel the origin is that when I meet producers, they are not capable to fully assess the quality of the product. When you visit a winemaker, on the contrary, you visit a winemaker in Tuscany or in Burgundy, she's likely to know exactly how her wine should taste without relying ultimately on the judgment of the buyer, right? So we need to reverse the historical trend that made coffee just a pure cash crop, to be shipped out and consumed far away from the place of production. So last time I was in Guatemala, I met a young Guatemalan. His name is Eddie Solano. He's the national barista champ, and after winning the national competition, he convinced his father, who is a coffee grower, to allow him to manage a plot of the family farm in order to produce and process his own lots with new experimental preparation, right? Of course, he had to overcome the resistance of the father, who had been growing coffee for years without changing so much, no? But eventually he was capable to produce these micro lots that fetch much higher prices at the auction. Yeah? So this trend is really encouraging, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk in front of a younger audience today, and it's amazing to see how many specialty coffee shops and roastery are popping up in region at the origin, like from Guatemala City to Bangkok. But the biggest risk for specialty coffee is that good coffee remains a niche, and tons of specialty coffee will remain unsold. So this is why we need initiative like the Slow Food Coffee Coalition to make really specialty coffee mainstream. And this is why we at Nordic Roasting, we have signed the manifesto. Over to you, Emanuele.
Thanks, Francesco. Thanks, very interesting. I like this idea of make the persons entering in your roastery. I mean, creating a community, a local community, no, that can be more aware about what you're doing, how the coffee is treated, let's say. Thanks. Now we move to another player, Veronica. Ciao, Veronica, how are you?
Oh, good morning.
Veronica, we are working for Lavazza Group, and I'm interested in knowing you a little bit more, how you get passionate about coffee. And I would ask you, what a big player as Lavazza can do, can be an agent of change for making better this coffee value chain. Over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Veronica. I'm Italian, and I work in Lavazza since 6 years. I work in the sustainability department. I am especially managing Lavazza Foundation projects, and also the unit dealing with sustainability reporting. Well, I started working in Lavazza by chance, let's say. I was working at the European Commission in CSR, so I never had the idea in my life that I would have ended up working in a coffee company. But I'm a coffee lover. I've been a coffee lover since my adolescence. So I lived in a family where we had an average of 4 or 5 coffee per day, per person, per four people in the family. So you can imagine how much we had this mocha boiling all day. So that was quite a surprise to end up in a coffee company, but I was very happy because we have free coffee all day here, so I'm happy. And so I'm really happy to share a bit what my view and the view of the company I work for, because, well, first of all, we had this idea of setting up the Slow Food Coffee Coalition together with Slow Food. So we have been working with Slow Food since 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. I was not here, but I hear stories about the friendship between Carlo Petrini and Mr. Lavazza since 20 years already. So they have been reflecting very much during these years on how to engage in an innovative way for the transformation in some ways of the coffee sector. And so the idea of the Slow Food Coffee Coalition came out last year, and I'm really happy that many people are joining and many people of the chain are joining. And well, there are many ways in which a big group can help in changing the sector, from you know, trustworthy relationship, as Francesco was saying, with the suppliers, having relationships with those at the origin, traveling a lot at the origin, talking with the communities, talking with customers and clients, because we, as many other big groups, have both B2C channels and B2B channels. So you need to engage in a communication with the origin of your chain and the end of your chain in a different way in order to really value what the product that is part of this chain. But to be concrete, I will not monopolize all the time, because the things we are doing in this are many. I wanted to tell you about a nice project, very nice project that we started 3 years ago. It was, again, a project that we started by chance, by an idea of Mr. Lavazza, and then now it's a program, and it's called the Cup of Learning. And I'm really curious. I mean, I was really happy to hear both Rebecca and Francesco talking about the importance of knowing the product, about the importance of making the people producing coffee to be able to taste their coffee and understand the quality, because this is a very striking things that I understood when I entered the coffee world. I traveled a lot at the origin, and as someone was writing in the chat, many coffee producing countries don't drink their coffee, they just export it, and they have the, let's say, bad coffee being drank in the country. So it's really important to foster the knowledge and awareness of the quality of your coffee in-house, let's say. So with Lavazza Foundation, well, we have been working since 2004, so it's almost 20 years, in projects that combine both agroforestry systems, good agricultural practices, enhancing the quality of coffee from the plant. We have a lot of also other activities more focused on the social aspects of coffee growing, like women empowerment, youth engagement, and A Cup of Learning is about youth engagement. But what we always try to do at the origin, and that's why A Cup of Learning program was born, is focusing on the awareness of the quality of the coffee you're producing and how you can, as a farmer, improve the quality in the cup by putting in place some agricultural practices. So we decided to structure this program, A Cup of Learning, into 2 modules. One program is for coffee farmers, and one program is for those who aspire to be baristas. The idea was very, very simple, but very powerful. We, as Lavazza Foundation, have been asking to our colleagues here in Lavazza to help us. For example, we have the experts in sensory analysis, or those who were working in the Lavazza Training Center to train clients on how to do the perfect espresso. We asked them, hey, do you want to help Lavazza Foundation work? And we brought our colleagues at the origin, organizing training for farmers in sensory analysis, and young people in the coffee communities trained to be baristas in their coffee community. So we have very nice examples where, for example, in Guatemala, in India, in Peru, we trained farmers both on the sensory analysis part and quality, and also how to recognize defects, and also on the barista side. We also helped some of them to open up their little cafe shops in the rural communities, because it's really what I think can really transform the sector, apart all what a big group like us can do in terms of transparency and traceability, fair prices. What can really transform, in my opinion, the sector is the awareness raising activity on quality at the origin. Because if you are aware of the quality of your coffee, as Francesco was saying about wine, you are also more focused on what price you deserve and what price you can ask. It's not so easy, I know, but sometimes we as Lavazza Foundation, talk with communities who have no idea what is the right price of their coffee, because they have no idea what is the quality of their coffee. What we do in the Cup of Learning, and then I stop, Emanuele, we also bring with us, when we had the possibility to travel, we just had an online Cup of Learning last week in Ecuador, and we shipped the coffee samples, and we did the online training. We bring with us samples of coffee coming from all over the world and make them taste that coffee. I did a lot of Cup of Learning in Guatemala, for example, and we brought with us some Ethiopian coffees, some Indonesia coffee, and it was really, really interesting to make them taste the coffee of the others. And that's really the kind of network building that is at the basis of the Coffee Coalition that we wanted to set up together with Slow Food. So yeah, that's a bit the ideas I wanted to share. So looking forward for the debate. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. That's interesting, because as I am a consumer, I'm many times more focused on what can I do, what the person that I'm in my place in Italy, in Europe can do. But sometimes we forgot what can the farmer do, no? And it's very good to have this representation today that also are writing in the chat. So what can the farmers do for improving their self and their knowledge? And this is very true, that they have to know better their product, being able to value them at the real level. But that is why we asked Michela to join us today, because she will be the voice of a wonderful project in Honduras, so the voice of the producer. So I will directly give her the floor and say ciao, Michela, and ask you to talk about a little bit the producers in Honduras. You know, if you follow and you work with them.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Michela. I've been working for the International Cooperation for Development sector for over 17 years now. And the past 5 years I've been living in Honduras, working with ETEA Foundation, which is the Development Institute of the University Loyola Andalusia. ETEA has been supporting the coffee sector since 2005 through several development projects, and working there, I really became passionate about coffee, so much that in 2017 I joined Umami Area Honduras. That is a company who brings together 35 partners from Latin America and Europe. We own a farm, Finca Rio Colorado. We are trying to make it be social and environmental sustainable, and we also provide education, coffee education for both local and international professionals. And finally, I'm a member of the Honduras chapter of the International Women in Coffee Alliance, who brings together over 300 women of the Honduras coffee sector. This morning, I want to show you or present you a little bit of that about the Honduras as coffee producing countries, because I believe that we cannot understand or we cannot think about solutions if we don't really understand the producing countries' situation. So for once, Honduras is a very small country. However, it's the 5th producing country in the coffee sector. So you can understand that coffee is really, really important in the economy, so much that it has reached 38% of the total agricultural export. In Honduras, we have over 120,000 farmers, and this is the official numbers. We estimate that there are over 200,000 actually, but 94% of them only owns 2 hectares of land. That means that their production itself is not sustainable, and they need to join, to associate, to have a little bit of power and gainings. However, they are providing over 1 million jobs per year. Consider that the total population of Honduras is 9 million, and the economic active population is just 2.5 million. So 1 million jobs, really a huge amount of jobs. There is a lot of inequality in this sector because only 20% of the farmers in the formal sector are women. That means that they own the land and they can sell the coffee in their names, and they only are present in 10% of the positions at management level. However, they're present in every farm. What happens is that they're not visible. They concentrate mostly in laboring, picking, sorting, drying the coffee, while men are still owning the land, transporting, selling the coffee in their name, therefore controlling the resources. What are the main challenges of the sector? For once, the price is being decided internationally in the coffee market, and farmers have very little bargaining power. And what they can bargain is on top of the international price. Climate change has been already mentioned. Consuming countries are responsible for most of it, but farmers are struggling day by day to adapt to the new conditions. All this happens in a socio-economic and political context that is really vulnerable, where both national and international politics and programs are not favoring the coffee farmers. One of the consequences is that disasters caused by natural events that happen in this local vulnerable context have increased. And as you all know, we are also facing COVID-19. Here in Europe, we are somehow coming out or living better, but in Central America is still a problem. Vaccine is not arriving at the same time. Health system is weak. So the COVID is really a new struggle. Gender inequality, I've already talked about it. Youth inclusion is a challenge because most of the young people see that their parents are struggling in the farm with the international price barely covering the production costs. And so many of them just dream to migrate. I see a lot of, actually, I work with young people who are able to innovate. As José Sette said, it's important that young people come on board, but I see that only when they have the opportunity to study, to have a good education, and to implement innovation, as also other people say, we can see that they are able to make a difference. And finally, we have a lot of emigration. Because this lack of opportunity, a lot of people are migrating. And what we are seeing is that some farmers are leaving behind their farm, but also that every harvesting season is much more difficult to find pickers because they try to legally migrate towards the United States. And I want to do 2 final remarks. Coffee is an inheritance of colonialism. So we cannot understand what's happening in the coffee producing country if we don't take this into account, and we are able to see that there are not only gaps between countries, consuming and producing countries, but also within marginalized groups. And if we have a look, normally the farmers the rich farmers are white, small farmers are mestizo, but indigenous people are pickers, for instance. And this is the reality, at least in Honduras. And you can see that I believe that we cannot, find solution if we don't use a decolonial intersectional lens, and if we're not able to include more those what are called subaltern voices. So I think today is a very interesting event, and I'm really glad to be somehow an ambassador of Honduras producers, but I really hope that the next year we will be able to find a way to make a platform to make them heard directly. And for time's sake, I stop here, but I'm available for any Q&A you have. Bye.
Thanks, Michela. Thanks, is super important, the work you follow. And yes, we need to be present and help the farmers to be a real farm, no? To work in agricultural way, respecting the biodiversity of their land. So that's very interesting. There are many things that are come up in this dialogue. I would stay with the quote that Francesco dropped to us, and I would love to ask to José. So Francesco said the coffee has never been that good as today, no? So I would ask José how the coffee consumption, no, from the way or using, I don't know, the Turkey way and arrive until cold brew coffee. I mean, how that is changed, how that is how it's better, why it's better right now, the coffee.
Well, Emanuele, that is an immense question, which I think could merit a whole session to itself. I will try to be very brief, but as you said, the origin of coffee is in East Africa, and then it spread across the Red Sea to the Arabian Peninsula. In turn, the expansion of the Ottoman Empire brought it to other places, especially Europe, and then it became one of the world's first global commodities, let's say. And here, the spread of coffee is inherently associated with the rise of colonialism and imperialism, as our last speaker just said, Michela. But over time, we have seen that the methods of preparation have become increasingly more sophisticated. One excellent example is the invention of the espresso machine in Italy in the late 19th century. Another invention around the same time is a soluble coffee, which is a very practical and convenient way to prepare a beverage. More recently, we have seen an explosion of new preparation methods, and here maybe Francesco and Veronica can give us more details, things like capsules and nitro cold brew. I'm approaching the end of my career, but I keep wondering how people will be drinking coffee in 10 or 20 years. What I do want to stress is, however your coffee is prepared, we must preserve the social nature of coffee consumption. Coffee is a social drink. It brings people together. It creates friends. And that is, for me, one of the greatest parts of working in coffee. Thank you.
Thanks, José. Thanks for answering this very big question. But now I wanted to come back to, as you suggest, Rebecca, Veronica, Francesco at first. So as we are addressing, I mean, we are talking to young people audience, no? How can this new way to drink coffee like V60, French press, new, I mean, fairly new. So how can change the world of coffee? I mean, in the future, are we going to drink more espresso, more filter coffee, or not? What do you think? Francesco is nodding.
Yes, I am. It's for me. Do you want me to start?
Yes.
I want to be a gentleman. Let ladies first. But... Okay. Yeah, I think personally that I would like to answer your question by just saying, as an Italian, I came from a country with a strong espresso culture, right? So there was no other way to drink coffee in Italy until recent time, okay? Apart from mocha pot and espresso machine, no? So being Italian, moving into Denmark, I discovered a whole world of new way of drinking coffee. No? And this actually is what happened when it's the downside of the flip side of having a strong food culture. You come from a place where the tradition is so rooted that there is really no room for innovation taking place. No, that's why I moved to Denmark to do this job, because I found a more dynamic market or environment where people are more ready to be contaminated with this new way of drinking coffee, right? And we should welcome those ways, because it's just as I said, is important to expose consumer to a diversity of terroir, of different flavors and aroma in coffee. So it's also important to expose consumer and present consumer with different ways to enjoy coffee, you know. And as I said in my intervention, there have been tremendous amount of innovation at different stage, but especially in the final stage of the supply chain, when we think about every month there is a new brewer coming up. Now every month there is some new knowledge that is built on coffee. So I think we should welcome this different way to enjoy coffee, also because sometimes they make also life the coffee brewing easier, because most of them are easy, portable, light. You don't need to have a lot of money or space to, like when you have an espresso machine to produce coffee, right? To brew a cup of coffee. So I think this is a positive change in the coffee industry.
Yeah, I totally agree with Francesco. Yeah, and I really agree with you. And I don't know, I think that like the different brewing methods also kind of reflect the diversity of coffee, which sometimes is not so well known, because yeah, if you go to your classic cafe and they just give you that homogeneous tasting bit of roasted espresso, then it doesn't really tell the whole story. And what I like to tell my friends, for example, that are not super into coffee, is like when they try a filter, for example, and they see the color, it's like really light and really kind of orangey. And they're like, what is this? This looks weird. This doesn't look like coffee. I'm like, yeah, but coffee is a fruit. So if you think about it, like you're basically drinking a fruit juice, a hot fruit juice. So when you say it like that, they're super like, oh, that makes sense. And they sort of like start appreciating a different, like it's a different beverage of what they're in, like sort of like used to, but a delicious one. So yeah, I agree.
Great, thanks. So that's, I mean, Francesco, you say there are many, there are popping up, I can say, new roastery every day. It might be happen in Denmark and Scandinavia. Here is something that is start happening nowadays. We have the wave of crafted beer, for instance, but we are starting to create new roastery. And I don't know, maybe you have some hints, some input, some suggestions, you all, for that guys, that the young persons that want to open a roastery and make their pass on this coffee chain. what should I do? What would be the suggestion you all would take to them?
The short answer is to do like me, just change country and open your roaster in Denmark. No, but that's as of course joking. I mean, I think there is the movement is growing even in Italy. I mean, there are a lot of good example of business, micro roastery, specialty coffee shop, or they are opening. I think the movement behind the Specialty Coffee Association and is really like in ferment in Italy. We have a lot of competition with a lot of competitors. I think the whole competition work can be a pull factor. Now, I'm not a competitive person. I really prefer to spend my time learning by reading or by talking with trainees or with suppliers, with producer. But I know that for many people, like taking part to competition can be really an important factor now, especially as I said in the producing countries. Going back to your question, Emanuele, Italy, as I said, is difficult because it's when you have such a strong the burden of tradition is huge, no? So we really need to, I don't know, reboot the system, try to reset and restart and try to be more open-minded, and probably it takes generations. So I think it's just a matter of time, and we will get there also in Italy. I think we are on the good. It takes slowly, it takes longer, but we will get there.
Yeah, the burden of tradition would open on another one-day debate, so I won't touch it. Let's stay for another minute on the consumer aspects. Then we might change. But we started telling that we need to be more easy, let's say, to the consumer. So we don't have to be too complicated on give information to them. So my question, then we can skip to the audience question, here is what can we do to talk easier to them? For instance, I know that Lavazza has developed these taste wheels, no? Which has these sensory wheels, let's say, very easy, like nutty or acid. So they don't ask you to see all the nuance of the coffee, but the first one. So to have the first step in knowing more about the flavor, because as we said, as always said in also the manifesto, the coffee is not just the energy drink to boost your day, but it also a very enjoyable drink with a lot of different nuance and taste. So what can we do for normal consumer that is not already committed in coffee to do so, to learn more? I don't know, maybe talking about the origin of the coffee, or as you said, explaining that new type of brewing, as I said. What can you do? What we can do? So there's no answers on that. But anyway,
I don't want to talk again, but I can say something that I reminded.
Yes,
I don't know
please.
if it makes a lot of sense. But I mean, I'm not an expert about like market research, but what I imagine is that like different groups will be sort of attracted by different things. So there might be, the person really interested in sustainability. So I really try and play with explaining more about where your coffee is coming from on the packaging and things like that. There might be the person who's more interested in branding. So, loads of specialty coffee roasters make like their packaging really cool and like snazzy. So, you're more attracted by the logo on it. Or there's even like a component of sort of belonging to a certain group when you buy a certain brand. So I think that, you know, one could play on that to then sort of have a way in and start educating the consumer a bit more.
Thanks. So let's switch. Let's come back to the farmers. No, I just wanted to read a question that we have here. Let me just bring it back. I found it interesting. So for instance, we have this one, like it was dropped by Caio, and said he would love to know how can be ensure human rights in the coffee plantation, no? Or at the beginning. So I know that Michela and the project are working a lot on that aspects. So I wanted to ask for more about that.
So I believe it's a complicated, very complicated question.
I have a just complicated question for you all.
Yeah. So starting from general, we can't ensure human rights respect in the farms if at a more, let's say, structural level, we are not changing things. So we can't just enforce something in a farm if the society is not ready, or if we don't provide the conditions. Because, for example, I know that one of the problem is what farmers are paying to the pickers, but unless we are able to make the farmers gain more, it's impossible for them to change that. There is childhood work, for example. It's a problem, but at the same time, I was talking with with a colleague in a cooperative, and she was telling me, look, when there is an auditing, there are not children in the farms, but the reality is that during the harvest season, farms are full with children because we don't have a care system for them. The mother has to work. There many pickers are women, on opposite of what is like the imagination and even the picture. Many times you see the man, but actually there is plenty of women who are working in the farm. And so if we're not able as society through politics, policy and programs to provide the base, it will be very, very difficult. Then there is, of course, the willingness. You were mentioning one of the projects I'm with is Umamiare Honduras. I was mentioning it at the beginning. So we have this farm, and for example, usually the agricultural worker have no contract. We have been able to have 2 fixed people with a contract, with all the rights that they deserve by law. And we are paying the workers a little bit over the market, but the final objective is to be able to provide a contract, a legal contract for all of them, to provide good housing, to provide them with education for the children, to provide them with something to do for the children while the parents are working. But it's a process. It's a really long process because the market conditions are actually a little bit difficult, and then you have all the cultural also constraints. So I don't know if I've answered, but I gave really some ideas.
Thanks, Michela. Well, what do you think all about that?
I absolutely agree with Michela. We have a project together with a trader that maybe you all know, which is Marcone, and together with their foundation, Lavazza Foundation, and the Seeds for Program Foundation of Marcone, we have a program in Nicaragua. That what they did, which we liked very much, was to set a program together with the Ministry of Education of Nicaragua, in order to have coordination between the Ministry of Education and the Seeds for Progress Foundation, because many times it happens that school vacation time is the same time of cosecha, of the picking time. So children are, without school, and so they sometimes happens to go together with their parents or mothers, as Michela was saying, in the field. So there are several projects, and we are engaged in many of them, where these local foundations build childcare facilities next to the plantations, so that, and these facilities can welcome babies from 0 to 17, 18 years old, and having specific activities according to the age. And in my opinion, that's the only way to try to tackle this issue, because education and assistance in this way is the, let's say, the cleverest action that you can take. So I agree with Michela in this, and yeah, it's really interesting, and it's really, from my perspective, working for a foundation, part of a big group, it's really good and important for us to work with local NGOs and local actors, because they own the knowledge of the local environment. So it's really important to trust those who work on the ground. And that's why, for example, but I'm sure all of those engaging in sustainability projects like to work with local agents and local NGOs.
So you mean, Veronica, also to create a local network, no? As we said, so be engaged more with other farmers, other NGOs, other possible consumers also there, roaster, maybe if they have, also because many times the country where coffee is grown are not they are not roasting, no?
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting part of our job, of my job. It's also to help not just the coffee communities to grow a better coffee, but in many times we also push them to create their own roasteries locally. We have a project, for example, in Ecuador with the COSPE. COSPE is an Italian NGO, Michela knows it. And it's a very interesting project in the Imbabura region, which is a region next to Colombia. So coffee is somewhat similar to the Colombian one. It's very nice. And in that region, in a very nice valley, we are working with COSPE not just on the agricultural part of the coffee chain, but also on the roastery part. And there is this local cooperative, which not just set their local roastery, but also their local little chain of cafes in the villages all around, with their own mark, with their own logo. And that goes in the direction I was mentioning before, with Francesco and Rebecca, we were mentioning. It's really important to make them taste their coffee, know their coffee, and as they say in Spanish, dar valor agregado al producto, give more value to their product through the processes like the roastery and the coffee and the coffee shops. So the network in this case is fundamental. So yeah, I'm a great supporter of networks.
Yes, you're right. That's why we are here.
Can I add something? Do we have still a bit of time?
Yeah, please, Francesco.
I just want to maybe also call José again into the discussion, because it's great what we are doing as businesses, as great as we are doing as NGOs, as foundation, but we need to have the collaboration of the government. And we don't have to forget that the institutional level is so important if we want to try to reverse these historical imbalances now in the coffee sector that we all agree comes from is the heritage of the colonial times. And why I've said that, because one of the case study that I like to quote the most is when I traveled Colombia, especially in Cauca, that was the epicenter of the civil war. one of the most successful program of the former government was the reintegration of the former member of guerrillas into the society. So try to go beyond the civil conflict by offering material means to the ex perpetrators, by literally giving them coffee trees in order to start making them growing coffee instead of feeding the narco economies. We know all the situation. So that's why for me it's so important that we also have the support at the higher level, the institutional level, and I think an organization like the ICO has to play a huge role in involving government in such a program like this.
Yes, thank you, Francesco. And it brings me to really, I think, our most important initiative right now, which we call the Coffee Public-Private Task Force. And the ICO is an organization of governments. It's, I always like to say, it's like a little United Nations of coffee. But we have, our members have come to the conclusion that governments alone cannot overcome the challenges the coffee sector faces, and that we need a very close collaboration with the private sector. And for this reason, we have created this public-private task force, which was only begun a couple of years ago. It is has gone through a process of initial structuring, let's say, and is now in a position to start working on the ground in concrete terms to look at things like how can we give farmers a decent income. People call it a living income, a prosperous income, but something that will give them enough to bring up their children in a dignified manner. The task force is looking at things also like market transparency, to see how production costs, for example, differ across the world. There are very big differences from country to country in terms of productivity. There are very high productivity countries like Brazil and Vietnam, but most of the other coffee producing countries have lower productivity. We are looking in the task force at the question of the climate, how to build resilient coffee landscapes. So we are advancing in this. We have leading roasters and traders on our side within the task force, and several of the names you mentioned are involved in this effort. But this is a very high level effort, let's say. And I always like to say that everybody can work towards the sustainability of coffee on various levels. So this may be the highest level that we can get, but that does not mean that young people, as consumers, as people who work in the industry like you, cannot also do their part. Everybody has a part to play.
Thanks, José. Thanks. That's the essence of this dialogue, and also the Coffee Coalition, let's say. So we know that we have worked all together. Today we have displayed story from farmers to institution, from roaster. We have different angles, different challenges, and different stories to have. But of course, we need to do it step by step, I think, and everyone has, as we said before, the role and their responsibility. So I think it's very good to have done this today, and I hope we can do it many times in the future. So we sit at the same table, various panel of the supply chain. Unfortunately, we are almost run out of time. We're also 5 minutes or so. So I will give the floor to Jorrit to close this moment, this dialogue. And first of all, I wanted to remember that today at 3 p.m. in Rome time, so chess time, will be the opening celebration of the World Food Forum. So don't forget it. And now I just, before to bring the last ciao to Jorrit, I really wanted to thank José, Francesco, Veronica, Rebecca, Michela, and all the colleagues that were supporting the Slow Food Coffee Coalition, all the persons that I know in the chat from Malawi and Madagascar and other country, they are already in the Coffee Coalition. So, and thanks to the World Food Forum for have organized that. Thank you, and it's to you, Jorrit.
Thank you so much, Emanuele. I'm super happy to be part of this World Food Forum and to have organized this session with all of you. It was an amazing journey because often the food system feels so anonymous. It feels so hard to really dive into all the parts of the food chain in basically all the parts of the food chain. So it was incredible to hear from how consumers can change, how baristas can change, how roasters can change, how traders can change, and how producers can change. It is truly something that I believe that has the future in order to get into a transition towards a more sustainable food system. And this is what Slow Food Youth Network is also all about. We try to gather people from all over the food chain, like Rebecca today, and we try to facilitate the dialogue and the events around it in order to create a change towards a better future. And for that, if you're not done talking yet, please reach out to Slow Food Youth Network in your local area and keep this conversation going. And with that, I would also like to mention the fact that today we are launching the Save the Coffee Break campaign. And on our social media, we'll speak further about how coffee and coffee culture is so important for our lives and how we can maintain this cultural value to our own daily habits. And last of all, because time is running out very quickly right now, the Slow Food Coffee Coalition is not a closed, it's not a closed network with the people you've seen in here. The Slow Food Coffee Coalition is an open and collaborative network uniting all the participants involved through the coffee supply chains, again, like in this call, from producer to consumer and vice versa. And our common goal is to work towards a truly good, clean, and fair coffee for all and creating ethically and social responsible value chain. So if you agree with us and if you really feel that our coffee chain has to change, please head over to the coffeecoalition.slowfood.com and sign our manifesto and join us on this fight and this journey towards a truly sustainable coffee chain. And with that, I'll finish my final part of my coffee, and I'm looking forward to see you at our next event. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jorrit. I don't know if Lucia wanted to close everything and just thanks everyone and see you soon then. I hope to see you and chat with you very, very soon. Thanks. Ciao then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Happy Coffee Day.
Happy Coffee Day.
Happy Coffee Day.
Bye.
Yes, ciao.
Bye.
Bravo.